welcome back to the Whatnots Reactor Core number 74. This is our reaction to Ms. Marvel number 5. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Kyle? Kyle, you see Thor: Love and Thunder in less than 24 hours.
On Thor's Day. Yes, I will be in the theater this time tomorrow.
Oh my God.
Watching it, yeah, as we
You
are
could be in the
recording,
third
so.
act by this time tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll have seen an hour and a half of Thor tomorrow, and I'm super excited. Be on the lookout because we are planning to do a spoiler cast on that. But we got some more Ms. Marvel to talk about.
Yeah.
We are almost done with the show. This was number 5. We got one more week left. Next week is the finale. But Melissa, what did you think of episode 5 here?
Big surprises right from the very beginning. I love that this is our first real change to the Marvel Studios logo. They've swapped images in and out as the movies and TV shows go on. They add new characters in. Sometimes a new song will play over it as opposed to the normal fanfare score. But I loved putting this one in black and white with the historical music, and then you see it in that old 4:3 aspect ratio.
That was cool.
I've never seen the logo changed that much, and that's so exciting.
Didn't they do something like that in Spider-Man? So, am I wrong, or in something else?
Well, Into the Spider-Verse changes the Columbia Pictures lady several times.
Okay.
But I don't remember.
Maybe it's What If I'm thinking about
Marvel
had
changes.
more of an animated version of it. I don't know. But yeah, that the logo treatment was neat. I did enjoy that, and I love when they do things like that. We're also watching the TV show Fringe on another podcast that we do, and that is one of my favorite things that they do. When they change that intro sequence, it's just like, all right, here we go. It's about to be a good one.
We're in for a treat.
Yeah, exactly. So I did enjoy that, but please continue.
Many surprises. I love how this episode starts and goes for 20 minutes. We spend 20 minutes in a flashback without Kamala or anybody we know that well. And I love that bold choice. I think it really pays off.
Interesting. I have to say that I think, as a whole, Ms. Marvel, this show has kind of taken a nosedive. And not in particular for a certain thing that they do in number 5, but this is me just looking at a whole. This show started off so strong and just skyrocketed up. And then I think it just left and right, they've continually dropped the ball. And I think it becomes very apparent in this one because they could have ended the show right here with this one, and I would have been good. But we still have one more episode left. And I don't know what they're going to do. Not in a, I'm not on the edge of my seat way. It's just well, there's really no villains that are interesting. There's no drama that's interesting. One of the villains straight up died in a very anticlimactic way in this one. The DODC is the only remaining antagonist, but they dropped that storyline in number two. So if you wanted me to think that they are the threat, you should have spent more time with them, but you didn't. You did this thing, and I just felt like, as a whole, it just has kind of nosedived here. That said, I think there's a lot of brilliant pieces in this. I'm like, that was fantastic. I loved the relationship between Kamala and her mom and her grandma. To see them together, I think that's fantastic. I would have loved to see this show explore that a little more. We don't get enough. What we did get was great. What we got of the flashbacks to India, fantastic. I loved them. But again, we didn't get enough. And it just ended up kind of feeling lackluster. we learn that Kamala is a Jinn, which I think is brilliant. It's a great change to Marvel lore. I think it fits for the MCU. But overall, the Jinn are kind of unexplored in this show. I don't really know what a Jinn is yet still, or how the powers work, or all that stuff. What is their world like? There's so many things that they started to introduce and then just kind of left it. And so everything just feels lackluster to me. But yeah, like it's such a weird thing, because I'm like, it should be so good. But I just feel like at the end of the day, like, what is the finale gonna be? Is it gonna be against the damage control? I don't really feel like they were a part of the show. Is it gonna be a fight against Kamran? Well, that's strange, because he's more of a good guy. I don't know but if they do, it's also like it goes back to the MCU problem of the heroes fighting themselves. Right? Yeah, like here's Iron Man fighting another Iron Man. We also don't know how Miss Marvel gets her name, Miss Marvel. Like, is she gonna shake the name Nightlight? I don't know. I just feel like it's gotten off the rails here.
I think its shortcomings are due to how much attention it places on the things it really wants in the forefront. And I accept the way that the scales are off balance. I accept the fact that, like, the DODC feels a bit underserved as who seems to be the major antagonist of the show, because we left and we've been on the other side of the world for 2 solid episodes. And I like that we took that jump. I like that the show shifted over from the 3 episodes in Jersey City to these episodes in Karachi, to the flashbacks. The fact that it really puts all of its heart and soul on Kamala and her family and her lineage. And it's that they're focusing on, instead of the sort of antagonist structure and the mythology and the larger connections. Like, I accept it, because I think what the show is good at, it's very, very uniquely good at. And I'm okay with other things feeling like something's missing there. And, you know, we got 1 episode left. And then this is a character who we do know we are going to see again a year from now.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know how that connection will work exactly. But yeah, I'm super excited to see her in the Marvels. The strength of this show, unequivocally, is Iman Vellani. She's fantastic. She's so charming in this show. She plays the character so well. But yeah, like Najma, I don't really know her. I still don't really understand her motives like I feel like I should. I get that she's an antagonist. She wants to go home. She wants to do all, but it's just, she feels like she just kind of shows up and then she'll say one thing and then it changes the next time, right? Like, hey, we're family, everyone's happy, and then like, no, I'm the bad guy. You're a Jinn, right? And then next they get arrested, and then they're out, and then they're over here, and there's just not enough to explain what their motivations are. So when she sees this rift into the genie world or what have you, she just kind of turns into like a moth to the flame, and despite knowing she's gonna die if she gets near this thing, she still gets near the thing. Like, I don't understand why she thought she would survive and not the other person who just died right in front of her. Like, there's no explanation of like why she might survive. Is it because she has this second bangle? Well, they haven't mentioned that. We know that there is a second bangle out there, but they haven't shown that she has it.
Now, was that a death or like a decaying of a physical form? Did they like become? Did they have to like?
I mean, we saw the skeleton there.
But like, you know, maybe their spirit and their soul's able to cross through the other realm.
So that is.
I do want to say that I do like that there was a skeleton. I thought like this quote unquote death scene was very cool. I like that they turned into purple crust and then the purple crust melts away and then there's a skeleton. Normally it's just straight up body and then normal looking crust and then skeleton. How can you think it's just going to be magic crust and then no, there is a skeleton underneath? I like the return to the human form. Love a skeleton. Happy to see a skeleton. Please continue.
So I have heard one theory that yes, when Kamala was like, hey, no, you have a son, you have Kamran, like you need to worry about him. You need to go back for him. That the theory is that yes, when she kind of gave up her powers to give to him, that it wasn't just her powers, that like it was her soul, her spirit, or what have you, that she can now potentially control him, and that there might be a three-way fight at the end here between Kamala and Kamran and damage control. And because that would make a little more sense of why Kamala could potentially fight Kamran if he was not in control of his actions there. And it would be a way for her to kind of still continue her mission, right? Of trying to find a way back home and to bring this Norwegian dimension to like I'm not sure what the right wording is there, not to like bring it to reality because it already is, but how they said it would like take over like the one that we know. But yeah, I'm just a little bit confused about what the show is trying to do with this. Personally, I feel like that's the thing. We don't know if this is getting a season 2 or if they tried to make it 2 seasons and they got told no, and maybe they crunched everything in the 1 season. Because it felt like season 1 should have been more about Kamala in high school, exploring her powers, maybe a run-in or 2 with damage control. And then kind of the second half of that is when they start to introduce Najma. And it's like, hey, we're family, and she gets to be there for 4, 5, and 6. And maybe there's something up with Najma by the end of season 1. We don't know. And then the hook of season 2 is, oh, by the way, you're a genie, and I'm actually a bad guy here, right? That would be interesting, and that's when they explore India. But I don't know. To me, it just felt crunched. And so I'm just left being like, I don't know what they're going to do at the end.
Yeah, I liked the opening of this episode a lot. Like I said, I appreciate when it slows down and gives you this really small, tight human story. In the second half of the episode, there were moments that I liked. I did like what Kamala's trying to say to Najma. I like her mom realizing, oh, that's been you. You're the light girl. But both of those interactions felt like they needed a couple extra minutes on them. I think the second half of this episode did feel like a little squished. And the show did start out very strong in terms of its pacing. We were applauding that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we learned things pretty quickly. That Najma is introduced at the end of episode 2. That we don't have any specific ticking clock to the show. We don't have one specific thing we know we're building to. From the high school angle, it's not like we're waiting for graduation or prom or some big test or some big party or something. Now I'm wondering if maybe having something like that, even if it would be a little bit more, I don't know, kind of predictable. Maybe would you like something that predictable? Would having some specific event you have to go back to Jersey City for, would that make you feel a little bit better about the structure and kind of how you think the final episode's going to go?
Not necessarily, but I see what you're getting at, and I agree. I think this show also would have been phenomenal if it really only focused on the relationships between the 3 generation of women, right? And just how they connect and how they reconnect, like really telling that human story. And sure, she's a superhero, but this is actually a slice of life for better for lack of better terms, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that those human relationships, those human stories, I think have enough drama in them, especially if they're weaving in and out the flashbacks of India and how that is kind of affecting things in modern day time, or how
Mm-hmm.
they parallel one another. I think that would have been phenomenal. Like, don't give me a big ol' here's the big bad guy at the end, right? The big
Mm-hmm.
fight. Just make it a human story. That
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been phenomenal. And then we could get to go see her do all the superheroic stuff in the Marvels, right? Um,
Yeah.
like I think that was a strength of the show, is the relationships. Um, and it's just 6 episodes is not enough.
I think so. I think the episode length, which has been something I think almost all these Disney Plus shows have struggled with, is that towards the end, it always feels like something's missing. It always feels like it's like 10 minutes too short. Except for Loki, which already had its season 2 greenlit. That's the one that has felt
Yep,
the most gracefully structured out of all of these.
I agree.
How do you feel about this tradition the Disney Plus shows have sort of invented, where the penultimate episode is flashbacks and then the final episode's the big fight one? So we got that with WandaVision and we got that with Moon Knight also.
I mean, structurally speaking, it's not necessarily a bad idea.
Mm.
It's just, yeah, like we get 6 episodes that should maybe be closer to like 8 to 10,
Mm.
depending on what the show is or what they're trying to do with the show. Um, and then yeah, I think they plan them all as mini series, which, if you're trying to kind of keep a control on things, and it, like if you're Kevin Feige, I can see how that might
Mm.
make sense. Like, hey, let's start small, right? But we're on what, our like 6th or 7th MCU show. I feel like
Mm.
there should be, like, I feel like, I mean, I've said it before on these reactor core things where I'm like, man, I feel like they're really getting their feet underneath them. I think
Mm.
the Disney is learning. I think I've kind of eaten my words on that, of
Why?
like, maybe not.
I think we also have to remember that WandaVision was only a year and a half ago. Like, we had a run of shows
sure.
that had a lot of COVID effects on them. And I don't know how many things have been fully planned and scripted and produced after maybe like Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out or something. I don't know how long the feedback loop takes for us to really see the sorts of
Yeah.
effects that we want. Maybe once we get to like Armor Wars or Ironheart or something, we're like structurally perfect. This really
Hopefully.
feels like it was excellently plotted. And I think the strength of all of these shows has been that they are really strong in characters, and that buys so much goodwill from me. Like, I find Kamala and her family in this world really interesting, really charming. I
Yes,
love the time I
absolutely.
spend with them. I got very emotional at this episode because I'm a big grandma's girl.
Aw.
But so I don't care if like I don't totally understand the villain's plans. It's fine for me. I have this nice place I get to go visit for like 40 minutes every week. You know, I watch these first thing in the
Yeah.
morning with my breakfast and my coffee. It's such a nice start to my day. And like the characters and the charm and their growth, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but then it's like, well, if the antagonists are consistently weak, or they don't make sense, or their motivations, why is the show spending time on them? Even that small bit that they do, like, it feels like they could almost just cut that out, and it would be a stronger show because of it. But who knows what they're gonna do with that? How did you feel? So we last time we said it was pretty safe to say that, hey, we now know that Kamala is the trail of stars that led
Yeah.
her grandma back to safety. How did you feel about the way it played out?
I really appreciated that little Nani, she like has a display of her powers. Kamala's got this hard light projections, and she's making these like stepping stones for the little girl to like hop on to get back to her dad, and one of them breaks. And little Nani is able to like sort of hold these little shattered bits of the hard light in the air and sort of like warp them. And that's really what the Trail of Stars is. And I really appreciated that even though she's like a 4-year-old, the show still like gave that character the agency in playing that large of a part in her own rescue story.
So I'm confused by that scene because that's how I read it at first. Upon first watch, it was like, oh, she has powers too. I mean, she is holding the gauntlet or the bangle, right? So it's like, oh, she has these powers too. Maybe she just hasn't really manifested them beyond that one thing, because she did have her arm up and it looked like she was the one doing that. But then Kamala gets up and says, it was me, realizing that she was implying that she was the Trail of Stars, which she kind of was, in the fact that it was her little like platform stepping stone thing that shattered. But how does her grandma know where to go if she's just holding them up? She's completely lost. She doesn't know. So that means Kamala would have had to direct them, not her grandma. So is her grandma actually doing this thing, or what was it, Kamala? But also Kamala's powers haven't done that before, so there's no precedent for it reacting that way. I'm a little confused. I don't mind that she was the one to have gone back and do all that stuff. That I'm just like, all right, yeah, cool, fine. That's fine. But I was just a little bit confused on how that exactly worked.
Yeah,
because if
she's trying to get her back to
knew where to go, why did she need the stars?
I think because maybe she knows, I let go of my dad's hand. My dad was walking that way, but she's so little. She's like fighting through this crowd. And when Kamala comes in and like makes her these stepping stones that, like float in the air, she's able to kind of like move through the crowd more easily.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But that's like, I don't, as much as I'm disappointed, I'm still fascinated by some of the stuff that's in this show. I think they have really good bits and pieces here that I'm just like, man, that like they've done some incredible stuff with this. So I don't want to end this on like a disappointing note, or like me going into the finale being like, man, this show sucks. Like I'm curious to see what they're gonna do, because I'm at such a loss of like, it doesn't make sense to me where they're going with this, which could be a good thing, right? Who knows? But yeah, man, I think this show really has this like underlying theme of like family, and just like your home is kind of where you make it. Right? It doesn't have to be in another dimension. It doesn't have to be with the people you live with, or the ones you don't, for the family members that passed away. Maybe. I mean, because they accept Bruno into their family, basically. Right? Like there's this nice theme of that. There's these great relationships between the characters. Iman Vellani is a freaking star in this. There's a lot to like with this show. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this finale will be impressive, and I will eat my words.
Yeah, I look forward to how it concludes. I did like the addition that they find her necklace broken, and I think the necklace might have been her name written in Arabic or Urdu, perhaps. And like it got broke, and that's where the lightning bolt image comes from.
That was neat.
Which it was something I hadn't thought about before. Like, where does she get a lightning bolt from? She doesn't do lightning bolts. Captain Marvel doesn't do lightning bolts. I
Right,
like
yeah.
that little origin story. And now you've pointed out that she hasn't landed on the name Miss Marvel yet. I look forward to that. Look forward to the finalization of her costume. We've got a couple little bits that we know are going to be crossed off in the finale. And I do look forward to them, even if the villain storyline, whatever it is, doesn't completely come through. I look forward to whatever her final moment with Bruno is, when he
Sure.
decides if he's going to California or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have some stuff to look forward to. I'm hoping for a second season of this show.
Yeah.
I think this would be a great one to continue exploring. Yeah, man, I really hope that they do more of this, because we demand more of Miss Marvel.
I think a second season would be a nice fit. I'd like to see her. We're on a slow road to that Young Avengers team. I'd like to see her meet whoever it is that she could cross paths with. I don't know where her path would take her if she goes, with Bruno to California. Who's out there? Will she go on? I don't think MIT is on her path, but maybe she's at like some other conference there, and she goes to something in Boston, and there she meets Riri. Or I'm excited for whose paths can cross, and now we're finally, because they've like set up the pieces for Young Avengers, and very few of them have actually met each other. It's pretty much just Kate and Yelena, I think.
Yep, indeed. Well, I think that is about it for our reactions to number 5 of Miss Marvel. Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities.
And you guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter. And if you guys would like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at The Whatnots, we are at The Whatnots on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. We just passed 400 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess this is number 74 of The Whatnots Reactor Core. You will see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.